Abandoned cabin, midnight, winter. A blizzard devoured the land. Wind shrieked through broken wood, tugging at the rotten corners of the isolated shack. Snow spilled through cracks in the roof. Moonlight couldn't find them. Not here. Inside, a dying flame flickered in a rusted lantern, casting shadows that danced like ghosts on the walls. Sarah, 30s, once beautiful, now gaunt and pale, lay on a threadbare blanket. Her breaths were shallow, her lips tinged with blue. Her arms trembled as she reached for her son. Miles, 10, thin and sun-starved, clutched her hand. His sister, Lila, 6, huddled beside him, her curls damp from melted snow, eyes swollen from crying. Sarah, weakly, "Miles, take this." She fumbled with the front of her tattered coat and pulled out a crumpled envelope, worn, smudged, but sealed with care. She pressed it into his hand with the last strength she had. Her eyes, tired, warm, and holding back the pain, locked on his. "Sarah," Suanteed, "to the rancher, take her to him. He'll know what to do." Her fingers tightened one last time, then went still. Her chest did not rise again. Miles. Whispers. "Mama?" Lila, softly sobbing. "Mama, please." But there was no answer. Only the wind and the cracking of frost creeping up the cabin walls. Miles knelt frozen, staring at his mother's open eyes, now void of everything but the echo of her last words. He reached out and gently shut them. Cut to cabin, later that night. The lantern flickered low, casting a dying orange hue. The fire was long gone. Lila was wrapped in her brother's arms, asleep from exhaustion and cold. Miles sat staring at the envelope in his lap. His breath came out in small clouds. He turned it over with trembling fingers. The paper was stained by time, by weather, by tears. He broke the seal. Insert the handwritten letter. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. My children are innocent. They've never known safety, only struggle. Please take them in. I trust no one but you. I never stopped loving you. Sarah." Miles read the name again. To Elias Granger. Bitter Ridge Ranch. He didn't know who that was, but Mama had said rancher. He looked at Lila sleeping beside him, her cheek against his chest, her tiny hand clinging to his torn coat. Miles wiped his eyes. He folded the letter and placed it in his shirt. Then, slowly, he lay his mother's blanket over her body. One last time, he kissed her forehead. "Miles, softly. We'll find him, Mama. I promise." He gathered what little they had. Half a biscuit, a broken knife, and the tiny locket his mother wore. He helped Lila to her feet. Cabin, Piaridon. The cabin behind them was silent. The wind roared, but the snow had lightened to a whisper. Miles lifted Lila onto his back. Lila, groggy. "Where are we going?" Miles. "To find the rancher." She nodded sleepily. She didn't ask questions. Snowfield, sunrise. The horizon burned faintly pink. Tiny figures moved across a field of white. 2 children, small against the vast and cruel world. Their tracks the only proof they were ever there. Miles walked without stopping, his boots soaked through. The letter, sealed in a waxed pouch he tied around his neck, thumped lightly against his chest with each step. He didn't know what they'd find, but he clung to the note like it was fire in his hands. High Ridge Trail day. The wind cut like a knife. The world was nothing but white and sky. The trail narrowed atop a jagged ridge, where snowdrifts reached the children's knees. Miles struggled to keep footing, carrying Lila on his back now, her arms wrapped around his neck, her cough growing worse. Lila weakly, "I'm cold, Miles." He pulled off his coat, wrapping it around her. His own shirt was thin as paper, but he didn't flinch. "Miles, hold on. We're close, Lila. Just gotta keep moving." Below the ridge, a drop of 200 feet loomed, but Miles pressed forward. The envelope still hung around his neck, the last thing tying them to hope. Wolf Ridge, dusk. The sun dipped behind black pines. A distant howl split the silence. Then another. Miles turned sharply. Miles, did you hear that? Lila clung to him, terrified. Lila, wolves. Miles grabbed a long branch and sharpened the end with a rusty penknife. The cold made his fingers clumsy. Then, a shadow moved behind the trees. Miles raised the stick, his heart pounding. From between the snow-laced trunks, a figure emerged. Whackin' 40s, tall, cloaked in furs, his face carved by time and wind. Braids fell past his shoulders. His eyes were quiet, watchful. He didn't reach for a weapon. He just stood. Miles, defiant. We ain't got nothin'. Not worth robbin'. Whackin' calmly. I don't want your things. He nodded toward the boy's chest. Whackin', Suantide, but you're carrying something of hers. Miles instinctively shielded the letter. Whackin', Suantide. Sarah. I knew her. Long ago. Lila coughed violently, collapsing in the snow. Whackin' moved slowly, then knelt beside her. Miles, don't touch her. But the man just placed a warm hand on her forehead. His voice softened. Whackin', she's burning. If she sleeps in this cold, she won't wake. Then, gently, he lifted her into his arms. Miles, hesitating. Where are you taking her? Whackin', turning. To Elias Granger. Miles's breath caught. Whackin', Suantide. I know where he is. EXT, frozen riverbed night. They made camp beneath a jagged ledge. Snow gathered above, threatening to collapse. Whackin' worked silently, stringing up a rabbit he'd caught with bare hands and a snare. Lila lay beside a fire, wrapped in blankets from Whackin's pack. Her fever eased under the warmth. Miles sat across from the warrior, eyes never leaving him. Miles, she said Elias was a good man. Pause. Why'd she leave him? Whackin cleaned the rabbit with calm, methodical care. Whackin, he was a good man, just not at the right time. Miles didn't understand. Miles, but if he loved her, Whackin, some men don't know how to love until they lose it. That silenced the boy. He looked into the fire. Whackin, Suantide. Sarah had fire in her. Kindness, too. But she wouldn't be caged. She needed more than promises. Pause. She needed someone to walk beside her. Not in front. Not behind. Miles looked at Lila. Miles, softly. She always said people were either storms or shelter. Whackin smiled faintly. Whackin, your mother was both. Canyon Ridge, morning. They reached the edge of Hell Canyon, a twisted maze of red rock and frozen cliffs. Smoke rose faintly in the distance. Whackin crouched, studying the ground. Whackin quiet. Bandit tracks. At least 6. Fresh. He dipped his fingers into the powdery dirt. Whackin, Suantide. Gunpowder in the air. Smells like rust and greed. He motioned low. Whackin, Suantide. We move silent. Stay close. They followed the path along a narrow gorge. The wind echoed like whispers between the stone walls. Then, gunfire. Bullets splintered stone. A shout. Miles grabbed Lila and dove behind a boulder. 3 bandits stormed out from the canyon wall. Rough men, scarred and armed. Whackin stood tall in the center of the trail. Whackin shouting, You want the children? Beat. You come through me. The men laughed. One fired. Whackin flinched as a bullet tore into his shoulder, but he didn't fall. With a battle cry, he charged. The fight was brutal and fast, stone against steel. Whackin tackled the first bandit into the canyon wall, slamming his head against it. The second lunged with a knife. Whackin twisted and drove the blade into the man's thigh. The third turned to run, firing wild shots as he fled. Whackin collapsed to his knees, blood pouring from his arm. Lila, sobbing, You're hurt. You're bleeding. Whackin, breathing heavy. Keep walking. Beat. We're close. Mesa Overlook, shortly after. Whacken leaned against a rock, pale but conscious. Miles helped Lila walk the final steps toward the edge of the canyon. In the distance, a ranch, a sprawling house, a windmill, smoke rising from the chimney, horses grazing in a snowy paddock. It looked like something from a dream. Miles's eyes filled with tears. Miles whispers, "We found it." Whacken, gritting his teeth, "That is Elias Granger's land." Pause. "Your mother always said he had more heart than he knew what to do with. He just buried it too deep." He pulled something from around his neck, a braided cord. Wrapped in it was a silver ring. "Whacken, Suantide, give him this. He'll remember." Miles nodded. Whacken softly, "Go, before the one who ran comes back with more." Miles looked down the slope, then back at the man who'd saved them. "Miles, you coming with us?" Whacken smiled faintly, eyes clouded with pain. "Whacken, I walk slower now, but I'll catch up." He watched the two children descend toward the ranch, small and brave, like sparks falling from heaven into the valley below. Western Ranch. Late afternoon. The ranch stood sturdy against the pale gold sky, weathered but proud. Smoke drifted from the chimney. Wind whispered through the bare cottonwoods. Miles and Lila approached slowly, barely able to walk. Their clothes hung off them in tatters. Frost clung to their lashes. On the wide porch, a tall man stepped forward. Jonas Reed, 50s, broad-shouldered, silver-haired, with a jaw carved from stone and eyes worn thin by years of silence. He wore a worn leather duster and boots caked with earth. He said nothing at first, just looked at them. The boy holding up the girl, both half-frozen, both with eyes too old for their years. Then Miles held up the envelope. Jonas took it. His calloused fingers fumbled the seal. Slowly, he unfolded the letter, yellowed, creased, and fragile. His eyes moved across the page. He read it once, then again. His throat worked. A rough breath escaped him. His hands trembled. His eyes glistened. "Jonas," softly, "she never told me." His voice cracked like old leather. He stepped aside, holding the door open. Ranch house, night. A warm fire filled the hearth. The house smelled of pine and wood oil. Lila sat in a washtub, giggling softly as Jonas gently poured warm water over her head. Her cheeks had color again. Miles sat on a chair nearby, flinching as Jonas bandaged his blistered feet. Whacken sat in the corner, his shoulder now neatly wrapped, watching silently. Jonas moved with care, not just duty, but reverence. Like every touch was a chance to make peace with something long buried. Jonas, quietly, "I loved her once. I just didn't know how to show it. Beat. When she left, I thought it was to hurt me. But now I see. Whacken, she wasn't trying to punish you. She was trying to survive." Pause. "She forgave you. In that letter." Jonas looked down, the letter folded neatly on the table beside him. He nodded slowly. Ranch, next morning. Snow had hardened to ice. The sun was pale. Jonas stood on the porch, steaming coffee in hand. Then his face tightened. Smoke. 6 riders. One of them, the bandit who escaped Hell Canyon, led the charge, pointing toward the ranch. Jonas stepped inside. His tone was calm, but firm. "Jonas, they're coming." He crossed the room, lifted a rifle from the wall, and opened a chest. From inside, he pulled out a small revolver. He knelt in front of Miles. "Jonas, Suantide, you ever held one of these?" Miles, nervous. "No, sir." Jonas checked the cylinder, loaded it with shaking but precise hands, then handed it to the boy. "Jonas, only if you have no choice." Miles took it, eyes wide, hands steady. "Jonas, Suantide, you stay behind me. If I fall, you run. You take your sister and run." Whacken rose slowly, grimacing through the pain in his side. "Whacken, you fall. I'll be right there beside you." The two men exchanged a look, not of agreement, but of understanding. The kind forged in blood and regret. EXT. Open field moments later. The ranch gates stood open. Jonas and Wacken walked out, rifles ready. Miles crouched in the barn, shielding Lila behind a haystack. The bandits rode hard, then spread out, dismounting in a line. One raised a rifle. Gunfire erupted. Jonas fired first. A clean shot to the leg of the lead rider. Wacken flanked left, dropping another from behind a fence post. The bandits pushed forward, relentless. Jonas took a shot to the leg, stumbling, but stayed upright. Wacken charged headlong into two men, swinging a fence post like a war club. He went down in the snow, dragging them with him. One final outlaw raised his rifle, aimed at Jonas. Bang! Miles fired. The man dropped. The silence after was deafening. Smoke drifted in the cold air. Snowflakes fell, mingling with blood and ash. Wacken lay breathing, alive, but barely. Jonas hobbled over to him, gripping his shoulder. Miles ran from the barn, Lila close behind. They wrapped around Jonas. Ranch house, dusk. The fire crackled gently. A sense of peace, long missing from this place, returned like an old friend. Wacken lay on a cot, wrapped in blankets, his chest rising slow but steady. Jonas sat in a rocking chair with Lila asleep in his arms, her head against his chest. Miles sat nearby, the revolver resting on the table, unloaded now. Jonas looked at the children. Jonas softly, "You have a home here now. Both of you." Pause. No more running. No more cold. He reached into his coat pocket, slowly unfolded the letter once more. His eyes scanned it again, softer this time. Jonas, Suantide. I never stopped loving her either. He pressed the letter to his chest, then leaned down and kissed Lila's forehead. Ranch porch, night. The wind was gentle. The moon hung low. Miles stood beside Jonas, both looking out over the dark fields. Snow began to fall again, delicate as ash. Miles, quietly, "Do you think she sees us?" Jonas looked up. A long pause, then a small smile. Jonas, "Yeah, beat. And I think she's proud." They stood there, the old man and the boy, with a world of silence between them, and understanding that needed no words. Ending narration / call to action VO. Narrator VO. Sometimes, the last words a mother leaves behind become the first bricks of a new beginning. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, love never truly leaves us. It just waits for us to come home.